Dakota Prescott, a lot like last year in the playoffs, is throwing the ball to the 49ers. And if he's going to throw, obviously, 3 picks, they have 0 shot. I'd argue if he just has 1 pick in a game, it is going to be very, very hard for them to win. He cannot turn the ball over and them have a chance. And honestly, he just wasn't kind of looks. He hung his hat on being the best guy of kind of that second tier group. I watched the Vikings-Chiefs game. Cousins a better player.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 49ers have the better quarterback right now than him. So it's like the quarterback matchup in this. And then also when you factor in Dallas's team is built around his salary, right? He's the highest paid guy on the team. And as Tirico said, listen, $850,000, a lot of money for all of you Americans watching. Put you in the top 1%. But it's not for NFL quarterbacks, and this guy's not only making that this year, he's got 2 more years left on his rookie contract, which literally impossible to get any cheaper given that he was the last pick in the draft. So the slotting, whatever his draft signing bonus is, I don't know why I've never looked that up. If I had to guess, I would guess $27,000 to Brock Purdy when he signed his rookie contract.
You're talking about the bonus.
I'm talking when you get drafted, you get a signing bonus. And I think the max you can give now an undrafted free agent, like when I was in the NFL, there was no max. So like the guy, let's say Purdy was undrafted and Purdy was liked by 15 teams. He might get $125,000. It was almost like politics, the PACs. And then they made laws of you can only give so much. It's like that now because I think a lot of owners are like, we miss on the majority of these guys that I'm giving 60, 80 grand. Let's just cap the number. And if we don't get a guy, who cares?
Right.
And from an owner standpoint, completely agree. Purdy signing, actually, I was way low. He got $77,000 as the last pick.
Okay. Not a fully loaded Tundra after taxes with that, not even close. But he got that for free, and he got a Lucid. And I just saw after the game an Alaska Airlines commercial where he calls an audible, Cabo, and then he throws a football to the Cabo destination. So he's starting to make his money now, Middlecoff. But I mean, look, he's number 1 in quarterback rating. Some of these stats, I got to go to a different website to get some of the updated stats.
Did I move us right there?
You did, yeah. I don't know how you did that. But to your point on Dak, we've talked all season, not all season, it's been a month and change, about system quarterbacks. And they did the whole graphic. They put Dak on the beach, and they did a whole thing about how the Cowboys offseason plan, I'm sure McCarthy told Jerry, we're getting rid of Kellen, and I'm doing the Tex Coast offense or whatever they're calling it. And the point of this offense is going to be to turn it over less. And, I think it's a reminder that championship seeding is made over the course of every game. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, win half the games maybe or whatever against the teams that are as good as you. And that's where you can stack up season-long touchdown, interception, completion percentage numbers.
If Dallas would have beat Arizona, they'd be 4-1. Tonight would have sucked, but they'd still be on pace for 13, 12 wins, right?
That's right. But it wouldn't really change who they are when they play the best teams in the biggest games, right? And that's where Dak, you can do your Tex-Mex offense or whatever you want to do, but it doesn't really change in the biggest games. If you've got some system because your quarterback is a little handicapped or whatever your perception of your player is, we got to get it out faster because they got a good defense. That's not a problem with your player. That's just how you play good defenses. But whatever your perception of the problem, you can fix it, and that fix will work for, if your team's good enough, 10 to 12 to 13 games. But then you're going to play Philly twice. You're going to play the Niners. You're going to play a couple other good teams. You're going to get tripped up by somebody because we know the Cowboys are an unserious team now consistently. It goes back to the day they hired Mike McCarthy, who got the job by lying to the head coach. He told him he'd watched every play of the offseason in which he was unemployed. Then he admitted in front of Jerry Jones at the podium, lied to the owner, not the head coach. I didn't actually do what I said, but I followed the trends. So his whole thing started on a lie, a big lie, not kind of a lie. His whole thing started on the lie that he grinded, that he did the work that nobody else would do. And it turned out Johnny didn't do the work that nobody else would do. He did exactly what most people would do.
The irony, I think I heard Andy say one time in his interview process that he told Clark Hunt something that he didn't he hadn't seen every film of the Chiefs. He had also literally worked that year and had just been fired. Remember, Mike had the year off.
Yeah.
You remember Mike had that coaching room where he got all the fired coaches to come to him and they just watch film. Mike literally didn't have anything to do.
Fisher was there. And
all coaches want to do is watch film. And he lied to the Cowboys when it was clear halfway through this job could come open where he could have banged out the tape. So to me, it gets down to this. Kyle's creativity is just elite. And honestly, there are a lot of, obviously, McDaniel's doing shit. Shane Steichen looks like a star, right? I mean, the Eagles just figured out that they're a little more, nuts and bolts. They just run it right now because it's working with their offensive line. I think Sean McVay's having a really good year. There's just a lot of creativity, with offensive play callers. And a couple weeks ago when they lost to Arizona and they were 1-5 in the red zone, I started looking up some stats of Aaron Rodgers had a stretch where he was on the stretch of the greatest red zone in the peak of his powers, with McCarthy. It was 180 touchdowns and 4 picks. It was stupid. He was dominant in the red zone. And obviously most quarterbacks throw the majority of their touchdowns in the red zone. But in the peak of his powers, it was Mahomes or Josh Allen, there was no stopping him, right? He was going to hit who he had to hit. And honestly, Josh Allen's not even on that level. It'd be Mahomes would be the closest version now. Brady forever. But Brady couldn't move like Aaron. Well, Dak is not some ad-lib player, right? And especially now he doesn't. He looks a little slower than he did in his youth. And that to me is a big advantage. When you look at the two quarterbacks, I mean, Purdy's much more mobile, right? Because another thing that happened tonight, early in the game, I think Chris Collins was pretty good. You can tell he just fucking loves football. Anyone that bought PFF, the guy's a football addict. Yeah. Honestly, I bet the coaches love him. I bet the coaches meetings, those coaches really like Chris because how much he likes football. And he said something.
When you watch enough football, just as you and I do, and most fans do, and you see enough unprepared analysts, how prepared that guy is. Anyway, keep going. I know people.
I love getting texts from my buddies in the league that are like, I can't fucking take Jonathan Vilma. I get some of these guys who are probably nice guys. They're just bad. And in fairness to that side of the profession, which you do, I could never do. It is not easy.
Especially
it's not
for the
easy.
Guys in the league who really know everything that's happening, right?
Yeah, it's hard. But Collinsworth said something tonight. They're like, Parsons has really been thriving on the left side. It's guys, if you either could go through and you were Mike Tyson, but you had to go through Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in their prime, or just go a couple other heavyweights, wouldn't you just go the other way? If I can move you around, why wouldn't I put Parsons exclusively on the other side? And then right as Chris said it, he was lined up over Trent Williams. It's this is coaching 101. There's no machismo credit in this game at all. This is a schematic game. It's going to be a ton of good players everywhere who can outthink the other one. And that, to me, was a little meathead Dan Quinn. That's not even on McCarthy, because I know he's got nothing to do with the defense. Dan, you just trying to act really tough? The Niners would pay for him. But I'm just saying, I would never play him a snap over there. Well, why would you ever fuck with Trent Williams?
I agree with you. But I was just going to tell you, because I saw the play before, or 2 plays before, he got doubled by Kittle and Juszczyk. No matter where he went, I think they put him on the other side first. Fuck, they were ready for that. All right.
And that might be the problem. I bet if you really did a deep dive on the tape, if you put him on the right side over McKivitz, I don't know if you witnessed today, but McGlinchey was getting smoked. And I'm like, I'm just going to type in old McGlinchey to Twitter. And the Denver fans are like, I can't fucking take this guy. And I had a buddy with the Texans.
He didn't help Russ up. He walked off the field.
You want to hear a text I got from someone who's around some coaches that used to be around old McGlinchey?
Okay.
Basically, the coaches said he's a head case with no confidence, which I would say is pretty telling how many Twitter spats he used to get into. I don't see Trent Williams when he has 3 penalties in a game. I don't see Jason Kelly. I don't see any of these guys giving a flying fuck. Offensive linemen. That's the least of their worries. So say this about Colton McKivitz is I don't know anything about him. That's fine. That's how most offensive linemen are that aren't super Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl level guys, right? I don't know anything about any of the Niners offensive linemen beside Trent, and that's fine. So it's what the hell is the difference? The Niners, I don't know how much Colton makes, but I sure as hell know it's probably $1 million. And I was thinking today watching that, that's an incredible, just easy move. Now, in fairness, To McGlinchey, the Niners guys liked him way more than they should have. So I wish they would have traded him a couple years ago, would have saved him some money. But McGlinchey is, which anyone that followed the Niners saw, a disaster coming for that signing. But like Colton McKivitz, honestly, like I'm not saying he's like some answer for the next 5 years at right tackle, but there's no drop off. There's no difference.
Yeah, they've been fine. And Purdy, like you saw that they rolled that play left and the pressure came from his backside. He saw it. I thought he was going to get sacked for a 7-yard loss. It was a 3-yard loss. Dak had a couple. Here comes Fred. I'm going to waggle on Fred. Fred just sacked him. He had another one. Here comes Dre Greenlaw. I'm going to waggle on Greenlaw. Couldn't get away from him.
The play, you were listening a little bit of Kyle. I'd be fascinated. It went pretty viral during the game that the Lions ran it, the 49ers ran it. If he was, which is very plausible,
18
right?
toss flea flicker, I think was the name, Kyle said.
He's at the hotel, sees it, and do they implement it before the game? Because if that's true, that's insane.
He said it's been in for like 2 years, that Anthony Lynn either brought it up or liked it, but maybe they saw it and like, you know what? It was almost, they ran it from the 38, Lions ran it from the 32.
You're saying that Anthony Lynn's the one that noticed it in the Lions game?
No. I think he made a comment about Anthony Lynn, like Anthony Lynn brought it up like last year or something, or maybe he's the one that put it in.
It's a sweet play.
It's a sweet play, yeah.
And listen, tonight is a good example for sure. One time a game, whether you're playing the shittiest team in the league or you're playing the Cowboys or the Eagles, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 of the plays, aren't just like schemed open plays, schemed open touchdowns from outside of the red zone. Yeah. That could be 40 yards, that could be 80 yards, but it's a touchdown. And they are hitting them this year. They are just hitting them this year. And their explosive offense tonight, because early on it was like, I was thinking coming into this game, didn't watch one snap of it, but saw the box score. Obviously the Bills lost. So Josh Allen, I wouldn't say game
Tirico
momentum.
tonight was like, for those of you who've been up early on the West Coast at 6 a.m., I'm like, Mike, you don't know the West Coast. We didn't wake up for that game.
Honestly, I forgot about it. And Lamar was corralled and not very good down the stretch today. So the MVP is just wide open. I'm like, this could be a game. And it is hard. I mean, I don't know if Ed Werder said this, because Ed loves, clearly he's talking to McCarthy, and then he just throws things on Twitter. Someone was like, the Cowboys game plan tonight is to swarm Christian McCaffrey. Like, sometimes, and in fairness, I'm not trying to even shit on Dallas. Sometimes reporters feel like, of course it is. Like, what the fuck? It's just, Van Der Esch is the only guy who's allowed to tackle him. Everyone else just watch. It's like, oh, no shit. But it was clearly, he was, I would imagine, the number one guy in the game plan, and he wasn't going to have an MVP game. Right? They were not going to let him beat them.
Yeah.
And then they just said, okay, fuck it. We'll just have Kittle and other guys destroy, and Ayuk destroy you.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
Purdy was 1%? No, that's not high enough. At least 70%, 17 to 24, whatever that percentage is. 254, 4 touchdowns. 17 divided by 24. Come on, do some math.
I thought the best throw that he made tonight.
Why can't I get that?
Was you just do 17 divided by 24?
There we go, 71. Dak was 14 to 24 for 153. Just before you get to, are you going to get to grading? Just to compare him to Dak. One other point. We mentioned it the other day. Dak was 11th in the QB tiers when Sando did it last year, or whatever, 12th, or wherever he was. Oh no, I'm sorry, he was 9th. He was 11th the year before. He was 9th last year. There's no way he could remain. Now Rodgers is hurt. Right, I mean, Burrow's banged up. Finally threw a touchdown to Jamar Chase today.
Couple. Burrow looked good today. I watched some of that game.
Deshaun, he was 11th last year. Kyler's not playing. Derek was 14th. He had a good game today, but this is Brock is. We talk about these tiers, and I think the tiers are such a good list because you look at them and you go, okay, it's just a reminder every year that there's at the max, 7 really good quarterbacks every year. And then you can start debating everything after that, right? And that's where Brock, he doesn't throw interceptions. He has not thrown a pick. This is insane. If Josh Allen had not thrown a pick all year, now those guys have high-end playmaking, but he's also making plays. The first touchdown to Kittle was not a boom, 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 back foot hit it to Kittle. It was step up, get around from pressure, throw on the move with touch.
Well, because he hasn't really played that many games coming into the season, most people would have probably picked Dak to be a Pro Bowl level guy and not Purdy to be a Pro Bowl guy. But if you look at the NFC right now, Pro Bowl guys, I mean, it'd be like Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, and Brock Purdy. That's a fact. Right. I mean, Jalen's going to end up making it. Jared Goff, start to finish, has probably been, I don't know what his stats are, but pretty fucking good. He's been awesome. I mean, they beat the shit out of Carolina. I know Carolina's bad, and Purdy. Like, Purdy is on pace. And listen, I don't value, like, I'm not saying the Pro Bowl matters, but it does matter, like, who are your first 3 picks? Like, when it's Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, and then one guy goes to Super Bowl, Josh plays Pebble Beach. Yeah, then the other group doesn't count. Well, but that first group counts, right?
Cousins might be in the first group this year.
Well, yeah, but his team's losing. But I guess his Pro Bowl is a lot like an All-Star game. What's his stats right now?
Well, I got 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, and yardage wise, second in the league.
I watched him today. I watched that game against the Chiefs. I thought I think Cousins looks pretty good. Like, it's not. He's the least of their worries.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I mean, but you're talking about, like, Purdy is above Dak Prescott. And for a while, Dak Prescott has been kind of a consistent, top. I mean, he's never like Aaron Rodgers level, but that next tier of like Hall of Fame guys, once Drew Brees fell off the map and before Jalen showed up, he was one of the better players in the NFC. And now the Niners, like, with Jimmy Garoppolo, even when they beat the Cowboys, they did not have the better quarterback, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is not a better player than Dak Prescott. So this was the thing we talked about with this move, was what happened to the Niners last year and why I think it was like they saw a death and they were so devastated that when they lost that game, because they're like, we've never been this good the last 2 years. Like, we are better now than we had been previously with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we like Jimmy Garoppolo, but he was not this good of a player. And the difference of these primetime games from just, if this game had been at 1, like, nobody misses it. I just kind of lowballed it, but like I had a tweet that was like, God, all the haters watching 20+ million people watch Purdy become a star.
It might be half.
And honestly, I was tempted to write 30, but I don't even know.
My guess would be, my guess is like
a peak
36.
I would guess the first half had a lot, and maybe by the end of the third quarter, people, especially if you live Midwest on, maybe just turn on your TV to kind of fall asleep. But I would guess that first half into the third quarter had fucking, the number is going to be, it's going to set the record for so far this year. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. Did you hear Tirico right before kickoff? He's like, it's great to look down and see these 2 uniforms and just realize this is real football.